India's Voice to the World. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. 10 killed, over 25 injured in Canada mass shooting. PM Mark Carney suspends Munich trip, says devastated by horrific shootings in Tumbler Ridge. US President to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington today. Talks to address Iran's ballistic missiles. White House says Trump fully supports Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, even as he acknowledges lunch on Epstein's private island, but denies any closer relationship with the convicted sex offender. All right, in a tragic shooting incident in Canada, at least 10 people were killed on Tuesday in a remote part of western region. 6 people were found dead inside a high school in Tumbler Ridge. 2 more people were found dead at a residence believed to be connected to the incident. Another person died on the way to hospital. A suspected shooter was also found dead from what appears to be a self-inflicted injury. A total of 27 people were wounded, including 2 with serious injuries and 25 others who suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Tumbler Ridge is a remote municipality with a population of around 2,400 people located in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains in northern British Columbia.
We have 2 scenes. We have the school, and then we have found 2 other persons deceased at a residence in Tumbler Ridge that we're trying to determine the connection to this event. We believe they're connected, but we're not in a position to provide that definitively right now at this time, and what that connection may or may not be. We have multiple layers of support coming for our students, for our teachers, for our community of Tumbler Ridge, for our front line and first responders that were part of this unfolding event and are going to be working through that in the days and years to come. I've had an opportunity to speak with the mayor. I've had an opportunity to speak with politicians. Your businesses are stepping up to provide support.
And Canadian Prime Minister expressed grief over the deadly school shooting and suspended his planned visit to the Munich Security Conference. Mark Carney expressed his devastation over the shooting. He offered prayers and condolences to the victims' families and friends. Following the tragedy, the Prime Minister's office confirmed that his scheduled trip to the Munich Security Conference has been suspended. On diplomatic front, Canadian Prime Minister spoke to Donald Trump in a bid to resolve a row sparked by the US President's threats to block a new bridge between the 2 countries. The disagreement arose after Trump suggested the United States should own at least half of the Gordie Howe International Bridge currently being built between Ontario and Michigan. Canada financed the project, and that ownership is jointly held by the Canadian government and the state of Michigan. Named after hockey legend Gordie Howe, the bridge was intended as a symbol of bilateral unity. The White House press secretary said that President Trump made it clear during his call with Prime Minister Mark Carney that it is unacceptable for Canada to control traffic over the new Detroit-Windsor Bridge. Meanwhile, in US House of Representatives, a bid by Republican leaders to block legislative challenges to President Donald Trump's tariffs was rejected. This move could allow Democrats to try to undo US tariffs on Canada. Lawmakers voted 217 and 214 to derail the plan to bar tariff challenges through July 31st, with 3 Republicans joining 214 Democrats in opposition. The prohibition was included in a measure intended to open debate on 3 unrelated bills. Democrats hope to force a House vote as early as Wednesday to terminate Trump's use of a national emergency to put punitive trade measures on Canadian goods. They also have resolutions to overturn Trump's tariffs on Mexico and other countries. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with Special Envoy to US President Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner in Washington on Tuesday. He is also expected to meet Donald Trump, where he will push Donald Trump to make a tougher stance in nuclear talks with Iran after rushing to Washington to stiffen the US president's resolve. And this will be the 7th meeting between Trump and Netanyahu since the US president returned to office last year. They also met in Jerusalem in October last year when Trump announced a ceasefire in Gaza. Wednesday's meeting comes days after Iran and the United States held talks in Oman, after which Trump said another round of negotiations would follow. The discussion is also expected to focus on energy issues and deregulation.
Tomorrow here at the White House, the president will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a bilateral meeting. The remainder of the week will be focused on energy and deregulation.
And facing growing calls for his resignation, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick admitted to having lunch on Jeffrey Epstein's private island in 2012, but strenuously denied any closer relationship with the convicted sex offender. Lutnick's ties to Epstein have come under intense scrutiny after email exchanges included in newly released files undermined his earlier insistence that he had cut all links with the late financier back in 2005. But records have emerged showing Lutnick's plans in 2012 to meet Epstein for lunch in Little St. James, notoriously known as Epstein Island. Asked if he saw anything untoward, Lutnick maintained that besides his family and that of another couple who were present, he only saw staff who worked for Epstein on the island.
I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York, right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him. And then a year and a half after that, I met him, and never again. Probably the total, and you've seen all of these documents, of these millions and millions of documents, there may be 10 emails connecting me with him, probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person.
So far, President Donald Trump's administration has stood by Lutnick, with White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying the president fully supports him. Moving on, a day after fending off calls to resign over the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer tells reporters that he will lead his governing Labour Party into the next election. Under pressure over his appointment of Peter Mandelson as ambassador to Washington because of the Labour veteran's close ties to late Jeffrey Epstein, Starmer came out fighting, urging his party to fight their real enemy, the populist Reform UK Party, rather than among themselves. He used a visit to Community Centre in southern England to try to show that his political career was anything but dead, a day after the biggest challenge to his authority when Scottish leader Anna Sarwar called on him to quit, and he lost a second aide in as many days.
Well, what's happened over the last few days is that we've pulled together as a party and been absolutely crystal clear about the fight we need to have. And that's the fight on behalf of all the people in this country who don't get the respect, the dignity and the chance that they deserve in life. That is the fight that we are in. That's who we're fighting for. I'm their Prime Minister and this is their government.
The United States on Tuesday moved to further relax restrictions on Venezuela's oil sector, expanding efforts to let American companies resume operations after state controls were lifted. The U.S. Treasury Department issued a license permitting certain transactions with Venezuela's government and state-run oil company PDVSA to supply goods, technology and software for oil and gas exploration and production. Additional licenses authorize specific dealings required for port and airport operations and allow limited activities involving Venezuelan origin crude. Washington has supported the government of interim President Delcy Rodriguez in exchange for access to vast oil reserves. Now, Colombian President Gustavo Petro on Tuesday claimed he narrowly escaped what he described as an assassination attempt while traveling in a helicopter. Speaking about the incident that took place on Monday night, Petro said the aircraft was forced to abort its scheduled landing amid security concerns that people were preparing to open fire. The president also announced the retirement of a police general, alleging that The officer had attempted to sabotage his meeting with US President Donald Trump at the White House on February 3rd, 2026. Taiwan's defense minister on Wednesday stated the delay in passing a $40 billion special military budget risks a rupture in the joint line of defense against China. As President Lai Ching-te urged the opposition-controlled parliament to approve the spending measure, last year Lai proposed increasing defense spending to counter China's claim over the island. The opposition rejected his proposal and offered a cheaper plan funding only selected US weapons. Time now for a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. India's AI Future Summit 2026 highlights push to equip youth for 40% job shift. Devnimori Buddha relics to return to India after landmark public exposition in Sri Lanka. And visible signs of excitement across Colombo as fans from both sides gear up for India versus Pakistan match in T20 World Cup.
Welcome to DD India, where a billion voices unite, connecting viewers to the stories that matter. India is not just another news channel. It's the international channel that puts the spotlight on the global south, bringing you stories from the heart of emerging economies, dynamic cultures and transformative voices. As the international news channel of India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati, DD India delivers high-quality content from every corner of the globe, focusing on the stories that shape our future. We don't just report news. We connect you to India's voice in the global narrative. From current affairs to culture, from economic growth to sustainable development and the ever-evolving world order, DD India gives you a comprehensive view of the world around us. Stay connected, stay informed, and embrace the stories that shape our lives. DD India, India's voice to the world.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. French President Emmanuel Macron will pay an official visit to India on 17th to 19th February. Ministry of External Affairs said that Macron will be visiting India at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. During the visit, both leaders will hold discussions on strengthening bilateral cooperation across a wide spectrum of areas as enshrined in Horizon 2047 roadmap. In addition, the leaders will discuss regional and global issues of mutual interest, including cooperation in Indo-Pacific. The two leaders will also be in Mumbai to jointly inaugurate India-France Year of Innovation, which will be celebrated throughout 2026 in both countries. On 19 February, President Macron will participate in the AI Impact Summit in New Delhi. As India gears up for the India AI Impact Summit 2026, a look at how artificial intelligence enables systems to learn from experience, adapt to new situations and solve complex problems independently. At a time when AI is expected to take over 40% of jobs globally, the Government of India is taking various initiatives to expand the AI ecosystem and connect the AI opportunities to the youth.
Usage of artificial intelligence-based applications is growing at a rapid pace around the world. AI skills are among the fastest growing skills, which means that there's an opportunity for many industries to invest more heavily in their AI capabilities. The growing knowledge of AI skills in the workforce is impacting different industries and job functions globally. Therefore, finding or keeping a job will require skill upgradation or learn new ones. According to the IMF, nearly 40% of global jobs are exposed to AI-driven change. Over 60% of jobs may be impacted by the AI in advanced economies, whereas AI exposure is expected to be 40% in emerging markets. The figure is expected to be around 26% in low-income countries. Professionals, particularly in the IT sector, are seeing the most demand for new skills. Trends also suggest that employers pay more for workers who acquire emerging skills. India too faces the challenges of artificial intelligence integration and its impact on job creation. The government of India considers AI to be a kinetic enabler for the growth of the country's digital economy, investments and jobs. India's artificial intelligence strategy aims to address India-centric challenges and create opportunities and jobs in AI. As per the Standard AI Index Report 2025, India has secured the third position globally in artificial intelligence competitiveness. India leads the world in AI talent acquisition with an annual hiring rate of about 33%. India's AI talent base is expected to more than double by 2027 with a compound annual growth rate of around 15%. The country has seen the AI talent concentration grow more than threefold since 2016.
AI right now, there is a lot of sometimes fear around job loss. There's a lot of investment that has gone into it, which people are looking for returns on investment. It is our job as technologists to ensure that that magic translates to value for the common man.
Despite the opportunities, uncertainty persists regarding the types of jobs AI will create, their long-term sustainability, and the skills they will demand. Preparing the workforce to navigate these transformations is no longer optional. It has become an imperative for governments, industries, and educational institutions alike. Bureau Report, DD India.
Europe, the United States, China and Latin America are following very different regulatory paths. The United Nations is pushing for global coordination for AI. India, meanwhile, arguing for democratization and inclusivity of AI. Here's a report by our correspondent Akhilesh Suman on how the world is trying to take the AI bull by the horns for practice and regulation according to local priorities.
The EU AI Act came into force on August 1, 2024. The law for AI regulation follows a risk-based approach, classifying AI systems as unacceptable, high, limited, or minimal risk. It bans AI applications that pose unacceptable risks such as social scoring and manipulative AI, and places strict compliance obligations on high-risk systems used in healthcare, law enforcement, and employment. Low-risk systems are subject mainly to transparency and disclosure norms. The United States still does not have a comprehensive AI law. President Donald Trump has replaced earlier policies with a new executive order focused on maintaining America's global dominance in artificial intelligence. As the world's largest AI innovator, including OpenAI, ChatGPT, and self-driving mechanisms like Tesla, the US continues to debate how much regulation is necessary without stifling innovation. China has opted for tight state control over artificial intelligence. It mandates algorithm registration, security reviews, and clear labeling of AI-generated content, particularly for systems that influence public opinion. While there is still no single comprehensive AI law, China's 2026 guidelines make watermarking of deep fakes mandatory. In December, China released a draft policy targeting AI services that offer human-like interaction, including companion chatbots such as Xingyi, developed by Chinese startup Minimax. The proposed rules aim to prevent psychological dependence on AI companions, mandating that companions must not pursue design goals of replacing social interaction. India released its AI governance guidelines in November 2025, anchored in principles of trust, inclusion, and safety. At the G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg, Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasized that artificial intelligence should be developed in a manner where human resources become assets, not liabilities. Brazil has passed a risk-based AI bill. The United Kingdom follows a principles-led, sector-specific regulatory model. And the G7 is promoting voluntary global norms through the Hiroshima AI process. With national regulations increasingly fragmented, the United Nations has stepped in. Its 2024 report titled Governing AI for Humanity calls for stronger global cooperation to manage AI risks. The UN recently also established an independent international scientific panel on artificial intelligence to provide assessment on the risks, opportunities, and societal impact of AI. As artificial intelligence continues to grow in power and influence, the real global test is not in just innovation, but also in effective coordination. How nations regulate AI today will have an overarching impact on the world's economic, political and social order tomorrow. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
And India will host 3 major global maritime events: International Fleet Review, Exercise Milan and Irons Conclave in Visakhapatnam from February 15 to 25. The convergence aims to operationalize PM Narendra Modi's Mahasagar vision and expand India's Sagar framework for regional maritime security and cooperation. The events will include a presidential fleet review featuring indigenous platforms like INS Vikrant, multilateral naval exercises, an international city parade and a maritime seminar with participation from global navies and naval chiefs. All right, updates on Bangladesh general election now as Bangladesh prepares for voting in the 13th Jatiya Sanssad election on February 12. Minority leaders and Islamic scholars have expressed support for Bangladesh Nationalist Party, while concerns remain over violence and the election environment. A delegation from the Bangladesh Puja Udjapan Parishad and the Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council met the BNP Election Management Committee on Tuesday night at its office in Dhaka. At the same time, leaders from different Islamic groups called on voters to support the BNP's election symbol, the sheaf of paddy. According to the Election Commission, 2,034 candidates are contesting the election. BNP has the highest number of candidates. Despite the heavy security presence, political violence has continued. Several people were injured in clashes between BNP and Jamaat activists in Bogura. With only days left, in fact, only a day left before voting, questions remain about how peaceful and fair the election be. Now, the sacred Devni Mori relics of Lord Buddha are returning to India today after a week-long public exposition in Colombo. The holy Devni Mori relics displayed abroad for the first time were exhibited at the Gangaramaya temple in Colombo for 7 days. Devotees from across Sri Lanka visited the temple in large numbers to pay homage, making it a significant cultural event. The exposition was inaugurated by Sri Lankan President, with leaders describing it as a blessing for the nation and expressing gratitude to India. The event reinforced long-standing spiritual ties between India and Sri Lanka.
In Sri Lanka, it's a very religious people are living, no? In those people giving such opportunity, no? We are happy. As India and Sri Lankan government is happy, and being a monk, being in charge of this temple, I'm really happy. Without any complaining of anyone, we finish our work.
Indian and Nepali strategic experts met in Kathmandu to discuss strengthening Nepal-India security cooperation, highlighting the role of Gorkha Valor, youth engagement and expanding defence and societal partnerships. Speakers highlighted historic military ties, noting that Gorkha Valor has been central to India's military strength and national security. It was also highlighted that Agniveer scheme is open to Nepali citizens to build disciplined and empowered youth. They also stressed that India-Nepal ties should go beyond government engagement, focusing on youth participation, technical cooperation, training slots for Nepal Army personnel and initiatives in innovation, entrepreneurship and cultural exchanges, highlighting the growing role of youth in shaping political and strategic outcomes. All right, sports updates now. We'll start with cricket. Cricket fans in Colombo have welcomed Pakistan's decision to withdraw its boycott and confirmed that it will play India in the ICC Men's T20 World Cup match scheduled for February 15. Fans had booked the tickets for the marquee fixture a long time ago and were hoping that the game would happen. Sri Lankan cricket had also mentioned the logistics arrangements, including sale of tickets, in their letter to Pakistan. Colombo is gearing up for a packed stadium and a festival-like atmosphere around the marquee fixture. All right, that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.